Genshin Impact's patch 6.4 aka Luna 5 will bring highly sought after 5 stars, but with 10 different 5 stars to choose from, a lot of people are having trouble deciding who to wish for. That's why in this video we'll go over Varka, Flins, Escoffier, Skirk, Eula, Albedo, Klee, Mona, Diluc, and Jean's strengths, weaknesses, and pull value for your account. That way you can be sure you're making the best decision and not wasting your precious primogems. With that being said, there's nothing wrong with just wishing for a character you really like, but you will want to know how those characters work and what they struggle to do, which is exactly what this video is designed to help with. So even if you know who you want already, this video will help you be the best prepared to play your favorite characters at their maximum potential. Make sure to like this video if it helps, and share it with anyone who may be wondering who to wish for, and let me extend my thanks for doing so right now, as it really does help out a ton. Now let's talk about Varka, the towering true Grandmaster of the Knights of Favonius. Varka is an on-field animo damage dealer that dual wields claymores, but even though he's an animo character, his damage is actually much higher with other elements. That's because when you have a Pyro, Cryo, Hydro, or Electro character in the team, Varka's second Claymore will infuse with one of those elements. But he has a passive that highly incentivizes him to have a team composition of 2 Animo characters and 2 characters of the same elements among Pyro, Hydro, Electro, or Cryo. Without meeting this condition of only using 2 elements on the team, his damage suffers a lot. Varka's overall playstyle revolves around his elemental skill, which can be used to leap high into the air in the overworld, and it makes him enter an enhanced attack state in combat. This state allows him to deal both animo damage as well as pyro, cryo, hydro, or electro damage depending on your party members, while also giving him access to some unique abilities. He can use a special skill or a special charge attack in this state for more damage, but you can't use these abilities right away as they start on cooldown when you press his elemental skill. But when you hit enemies with your normal attacks, the cooldown is reduced, meaning his playstyle is simply press his skill, normal attack a lot, and then use a special skill or special charge attack, and then repeat. His elemental burst has a flashy and dramatic animation that deals an instance of animo damage as well as an instance of pyro, hydro, cryo, or electro damage based on your team composition. It's an extra source of damage, but it doesn't have any extra added passive or abilities or buffs for Varka or the team. Varka is also a Hexerai character, meaning that he gets bonuses from having other Hex characters like Venti or Durin in his teams, and you'll definitely want another Hexerai character, or Varka will not be able to use as many special skills or charge attacks, which will significantly hurt his damage output. So how good is Varka? Is he worth your primogems, or should you avoid him like he avoids sobriety and his responsibilities in Mondstat? It's time to give Varka a rating. Varka's personal damage is okay. His animo damage is quite low, and while his other elemental damage is higher, his overall damage output is much lower than other on-field DPS characters. Varka's support capability is bad. He's an on-field damage dealer that needs specific characters built around him, and so he doesn't offer support for other characters on your account. Varka's team flexibility is okay. Being an animo character that can work with pyro, cryo, hydro, and electro characters might make you think that Varka is a flexible DPS, but in reality he's quite restricted. He wants another animo character on his team, but he doesn't really get much value from an animo damage amplifier like Farazan because of his low animo damage compared to the other elemental damage he has. And considering he wants exactly 2 Pyro, Cryo, Hydro, or Electro teammates, his options are even more limited. And if you care about your overall damage, his Pyro options like Durin and Bennett are often superior to the other elemental options. Combine all of this with the fact that he's also a Hexerai character who wants another Hex character on his team, and you end up with a very restrictive DPS that isn't pumping out huge numbers for all the hoops that you have to jump through. Varka's free-to-play friendliness is bad. Varka does not have a lot of good free-to-play options in terms of teammates and weapons. Bennett is a good 4-star to pair with him, and Sucrose will work as a Hex character that can hold the Thrilling Tales of Dragonslayers for a big attack buff, but there aren't many other 4-star characters or weapons that feel very good with Varka. Varka's overall value is okay. He's fine for the overworld and for the Imaginarium Theater, but he falls short in other endgame modes. Comparatively, a C2 R1 Varka team does about as well as a C0 Nodcry DPS character who were released around the same time as him, and there are often situations where Razor with Varka's signature weapon will do more than Varka without his signature weapon. This is all to say that I would not recommend Varka if you care about long-term character value or endgame or more difficult content. But if you just want a flashy, fast-attacking, fun character to play around with at your own pace, then he might satisfy your more relaxed playstyle. Recommended teammates for Varka include Venti, Sucrose, Bennett, and Durin. Now let's go over Flins, the flashiest and most gentlemanly Undertaker you'll ever meet. Flins is an electro spear-wielding on-field damage dealer. His kit seems pretty complicated, but it's actually really easy to understand. His normal attacks are not very important and not even worth leveling up, but his elemental skill is. It gives him a special electro infusion, and he also gets a special version of his skill in this state that deals AoE electro damage and allows him to use a special mini version of his elemental burst afterwards. This special mini version of his elemental burst does a little bit less damage than his regular burst, but it costs significantly less energy, and therefore you'll be able to use it multiple times over a rotation. So to play Flins, you'll use his elemental skill to enter a special electro infusion state, and then you can use his skill once again, which will allow you to use his mini burst, then you just do a few attacks, then you can use his special skill once again, followed by another mini burst. Almost all of Flynn's damage is concentrated into these mini elemental bursts, so you'll want to use them frequently. Like Anefa, Flynn's is designed to be a lunar charged character. Flynn's replaces the electro charge reaction with lunar charge and deals direct lunar charge damage, which ignores defense and is multiplied by 3. So you want to make sure the enemy is consistently affected by Hydro to get the best value out of Flynn's. So, just how good is Flins? Will he shock you into the next life, or is he the one who needs life support? Flynn's personal damage is great, provided you're playing him correctly. His damage can be very high thanks to the mechanics of lunar charge and the high damage output of his mini bursts. He's far from the best damage dealer in the game, but he's also much better than a majority of the other on-field damage dealers. Flynn's support capability is bad. To play Flins well, you need to build a team around him that caters to his needs, and he is not designed to support the team in any way, only to deal damage. Flynn's team flexibility is okay. You'll want to run him in an electro-charged, aka lunar-charged team. The general party makeup for this team will be Flynn's, another electro character, a hydro character, and a flex slot that's usually an animo character. Sucrose and Anefa are great with Flynn's, and a character like Yelan works very well too. Jingcho is also a pretty good choice, but Jingcho's rotations with Flynn's are a little scuffed because Flynn's does shorter rotations, and Jingcho is better in longer rotations. Without Anefa, Flynn's is a lot worse, but he can work well with more free-to-play friendly options like Auroran, so even though he only really works with one team archetype, he still does have a few different options for team members. Flynn's free-to-play friendliness is good. He has a good free-to-play weapon in the Nodcry craftable weapon, and he's a lot easier to build than some other damage dealers because you would rather give him an attack goblet than an electro damage goblet, because most of his damage is considered lunar charge damage, which does not scale with electro damage, but is increased by attack. That being said, at a minimum, you want another good source of off-field hydro for him, which can be the free Ino you get if necessary. Flynn's overall value is good. He's a solid character and one that will outperform many other electro damage dealers thanks to the properties of lunar charged, but don't expect him to have the longevity of other characters, especially very good support characters. Flynn's is recommended for players that want to play lunar charged or who have Anefa. Flynn's is a solid damage dealer, but his teams are limited, and he's much more likely to be replaced or benched sooner than other characters. Recommended teams and teammates for Flynn's include lunar charge teams with characters like Columbina, Anefa, Ino, and Sucrose. Now let's talk about Escoffier, the Fontinian culinary master that once again proves that polearm chefs in Genshin Impact are much more powerful than they have any right to be. Escoffier is a support that does single target off-field damage, heals, and shreds cryo and hydro resistance. Her normal attacks aren't anything special, but she's not meant to be played on field, so that doesn't really matter. Her elemental skill summons a levitating domed serving tray that shoots little snowballs at an enemy once per second. It has a 20-second duration and a 15-second cooldown, meaning you can keep it up permanently. Her elemental burst deals a sizable amount of AoE cryo damage, but it also heals your entire team based on Escoffier's attack. And her first ascension passive gives your active character additional healing over time, and while this won't affect other team members, it is nice for your on-field character. But it's her final ascension passive that brings out the true essence of flavor and Escoffier's strength. Based on your team's composition, she will shred enemies' cryo and hydro resistance whenever her skill or burst hits an enemy. The amount of cryo and hydro resistance reduced this way is 5, 10, 15, or a whopping 55% based on whether you have 1, 2, 3, or 4 party members who are of the hydro or cryo elements respectively. Escoffier also has a hold version of her elemental skill that allows it to absorb elemental attacks and convert them into food items, but this doesn't have any use in combat. Still, if you ever wanted to have a personal chef that makes you random food, that's exactly what Escoffier can do. While Escoffier does best when there's only cryo and hydro characters in your team, she can still be useful on other teams, as we'll discuss in a moment. So, how good is Escoffier? Is she deserving of a Michelin star and your primogems? Or is this chef's cooking all flash and no substance? It's time to give her a rating. Escoffier's personal damage is good. She is not as powerful as a dedicated damage dealer, but for a character who is primarily a support, she can provide good, constant off-field damage that she can buff through her own passive. And because she's an attack scaling healer that also ascends with crit rate, you can build her like a damage dealer and simultaneously increase her healing power. Escoffier's support capability is great, with some caveats. Escoffier is extremely good in her niche of using only hydro and cryo characters in your team, just like Skirk, who is a very strong on-field damage dealer. And while she ideally wants to play with only cryo and hydro teammates, she still provides constant off-field damage and healing regardless of what her team setup is. Escoffier's team flexibility is okay to good. While she does best with characters like Skirk in a cryo and hydro only team, she's not as restricted as she may seem. She works very well with common supports like Xingqiu and of course Farina, considering she can heal the HP the Hydro Archon drains from your team, and the ubiquitousness of Farina on people's accounts means Escoffier is often a very valuable character to have. Even in a suboptimal team setup, she's providing a decent amount of value because she deals constant off-field damage, can heal your entire team with the press of a button, and always reduces cryo and hydro resistance to some degree. Escoffier's free-to-play friendliness is good, with some caveats. It's hard to get the most value out of Escoffier as a newer player and sometimes as a free-to-play player. But luckily, there are a lot of good hydro characters that pair well with Escoffier, including common supports like Xingqiu and Farina. And while most people will pull her to maximize the damage of their limited 5-star cryo and hydro characters, she also does perfectly fine with free-to-play characters like Kaya. The main value of Escoffier is that she works well immediately, while also becoming better with time as you get better hydro and cryo characters. And while she doesn't have the best free-to-play weapons, she's also a lot less reliant on 5-star weapons than a lot of other characters. Escoffier's overall value is great. She is a premier option for freeze teams, but the fact that she does constant off-field damage, heals your entire team, and reduces some amount of cryo and hydro resistance regardless of your team composition makes her a very valuable support. Because she is best in a cryo and hydro only team, that means not everyone will want her because they don't plan to use her in her most effective setups, but she's still a good pickup for anyone who likes her. Good teammates for Escoffier include Cryo and Hydro teams with characters like Skirk, Farina, Nouvelette, Jingzhou, Shenhe, and any other Hydro and Cryo characters you enjoy playing. Let's now talk about the void-rending, dimension-shattering Cryo DPS, Skirk. Skirk is a Cryo damage dealer who you'll mainly play as an on-field DPS, but she can be used as a burst support because her elemental burst does hit really hard. Her main playstyle revolves around using her elemental skill to enhance her normal attacks, infusing them with cryo and making them hit much harder. Skirk has a passive that increases her normal attack and burst damage for every cryo or hydro team member that hits an enemy. Maxing out this passive nearly doubles the damage of her attacks, so she's highly incentivized to play with only cryo and hydro teammates. And whenever you trigger a non-melt cryo reaction, Skirk can generate void rifts which can be absorbed to give her serpent subtlety, which is just her own fancy version of energy. Similar to Malwika, Skirk doesn't use traditional elemental energy, she uses a special energy called Serpent Subtlety. She gains this special energy when using her elemental skill, and it gradually drains over time and is completely removed if you switch off of her. Skirk's elemental burst can hit really hard, and just like Malwika, you can use a weaker version of it or a more powerful version of it depending on how much of her special energy she has. In certain setups, you can actually open with Skirk's elemental burst and then also spam her normal attacks. If she has about half of her Serpent Subtlety, aka special energy, then you can press her skill to get more energy, switch off of her and do your regular support rotation, then switch back to her and use her elemental burst, and then use her elemental skill to spam her normal attacks. Skirk is very flashy and hits very hard, but she is one of the most restrictive 5-stars we've seen in a long time. So is Skirk worth your primogems, or does she need to stay in the void? It's time to give Skirk a rating. Skirk's personal damage is great. She does almost as much damage as Malwika in her premium teams, which is really impressive, but that's with Farina and Escoffier. Without those two, her damage is still pretty good, but it is a lot weaker. Skirk with Farina and Escoffier is one of the strongest team setups in the game, but Skirk with only free-to-play 4-star Cryo and Hydro characters is just so much weaker. But even in a free-to-play team setup, she still does a lot of damage. However, in difficult endgame modes, she will not feel that strong without her best supports. And speaking of supports, Skirk's support capability is bad. She can be a burst support, but if you have Skirk, you're really going to want to play her as an on-field damage dealer. She's already going to be in a Cryo and Hydro only team, since her damage in a Melt team, or really just any other team, is just so much lower compared to a Cryo and Hydro only team. So to get value out of Skirk, you do need to play her as an on-field damage dealer, even though she can be used just as a burst support, and having a team that needs to be built around Skirk is typical for an on-field DPS, and it is nice that she can be used in a double DPS setup or a double nuke setup with someone like Ayaka or Nouvelette, but I would not use your primogems on her just for this purpose. Skirk's team flexibility is bad. Skirk's Cryo and Hydro only teams are so much stronger than any other alternative that there's pretty much no reason to use her in any other team setup. Even in a full sub-DPS burst setup, she still does more damage with Cryo and Hydro only characters because her Void Rift multipliers actually make her burst stronger than the multiplicative damage you would get from a melt reaction. This is one of her biggest weaknesses, and considering she's also very reliant on characters like Escoffier and Farina, her teams can be even more restrictive. Her free-to-play friendliness is okay. Her team restrictions are quite annoying, especially for a lot of free-to-play players, but they aren't too difficult to actually meet. Even if someone is just starting out, they'll at least be able to use Kaya and Barbara with Skirk, even though it may be far from ideal. Skirk's best teammates are limited 5-star Hydro and Cryo characters, and that makes her pretty unfriendly for free-to-play players. Luckily, she has some good 4-star weapon options like the Calamity of Eshu, a former event weapon, and the Finale of the Deep, which is a craftable 4-star sword. Skirk's overall value is okay. As much as I don't like how restrictive Skirk's teams are, being relegated to only Cryo and Hydro characters, that's actually not her biggest problem. Her biggest downside is her reliance on Farina, Escoffier, or any other character that really buffs her a lot. With Farina and Escoffier, Skirk is really strong, and with at least one of them, she's still pretty good. But without either one, she is significantly weaker, and when a character is already this restrictive, and this dependent on premium 5-star limited supports, it makes it hard to recommend her for a large portion of the Genshin player base. If you already have some of her best supports, then she's a good character to have, but if you don't, then it's better to save for someone else. Good teammates for Skirk include Escoffier and Farina, who will be in pretty much all of her teams, Yulan, Jingzhou, Shenhe, Citlali, Dahlia, and Nuvalet or Ayaka for some dual DPS setups. Next, let's go over the Mondstadt Chronicled Wish banner and the characters included on it. The biggest takeaway from this banner is that it is a giant trap designed to burn your primogems away. The only reason to wish on this banner is if it includes a character you really like and want to have on your account. The characters available here have all been power crept, and I would not advise people to wish on these banners if they want the most powerful characters they can get, or if they're worried about their primogems for future characters. That being said, given the right supports, these characters can still function well, like Klee in a Durin Chevreuse overloaded team, but their value really is more for collectors or fans than it is for clearing difficult endgame content. Now that we've discussed the character's value for your account, let's talk about who I would recommend wishing for. I would not recommend wishing for Varka unless you just really want him, because he's a character that's mostly just for fun, and he's not going to be that helpful when you need a very strong damage dealer. So if you care about long-term value and the best characters you can get for the fewest amount of primogems, Varka is not it. Flins, on the other hand, is a much better damage dealer, especially if you have a Nefa or Columbina already, but otherwise I would not really recommend him. He's a lot more limited in his overall applications, so it's not really great to wish for him just because he's a strong DPS. If you want to use the Lunar Charge team comp, you'd be better served with getting a Nefa and Columbina than you would be getting Flins and someone else. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have Escoffier, who has the most versatility and the longest term value among the 5 stars in this patch. Her best use case being with only Hydro and Cryo characters is a little bit niche, but you can use her in almost any team and she's still fairly effective. That being said, I would recommend wishing for her only if you have a team in mind that you want to improve, like a Skirk team for example. And speaking of Skirk, she's a good DPS that can brute force a lot of content. She has the advantage in Stygian Onslaught and the Abyss because she doesn't need any energy, and freezing enemies can mitigate some really annoying mechanics. But if you're going for Skirk, I'd recommend getting Escoffier first, because there is a chance, albeit a low one, that Skirk will be power crept before Escoffier will. And once again, I would not recommend wishing on the Mondstadt Chronicled banner, as those characters have just been left too far behind compared to more powerful recent additions to the Genshin Impact roster. There's obviously a lot to consider when wishing for a 5-star, including whether you should even wish at all. Even though this video has given you an understanding of the value of these characters for your account, you may still have some more questions about who is best for you. So if you want to know who you should wish for and what is best in your situation, leave a comment below, or better yet, come by my live streams on Twitch or YouTube. There you can ask me about who would be best for you and whether it's better for you to save for characters in the future or to go all in for someone now. I stream at the times on screen, and you can find the links to my live streams as well as other helpful videos in this video's description. That'll be it for this one, everyone. Have a blessed day, stay jawsome, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.